The Sonoran Desert was silent, its vastness stretching endlessly beneath the moon's pale gaze. Not a creature stirred, and the only sound was the whisper of the wind over ancient sand. It was a vast emptiness under a blanket of stars, a place where time seemed to stand still and the world held its breath. But at precisely 1:47 a.m. September 21, 2025, that silence shattered in an instant, torn apart by violence no one saw coming. 12 F-35, Lightning II jets flying low and invisible to radar tore through the night like phantoms, their engines muffled, their presence a secret until the very last second. Their target, a sprawling fortress, the heart of the Sonora Syndicate, a criminal empire that had ruled the region with fear and violence for years. Months of meticulous planning, intelligence gathering, and a bold new American doctrine had all culminated in this single decisive moment. The first explosions were deep, earth-shaking thuds, bunker-busting bombs plunging into the ground with unstoppable force, sending shockwaves through the desert floor. The main fentanyl super lab, buried 30 feet below the surface and thought to be untouchable, was vaporized instantly, reduced to nothing in a single blinding moment. There was no warning, no escape, just a flash, a roar, and then nothing but darkness and dust. Above ground, Hellfire missiles streaked toward guard towers and armored vehicles, each strike a surgical cut in the night, precise and unrelenting. The cartel's anti-aircraft batteries, once a symbol of their power, were obliterated before they could even fire a shot in defense. The command center, nerve center of the operation, became a crater of burning electronics and shattered concrete, its communications silenced forever. The message was clear. There was no defense, no escape, no hope for those inside. For 10 relentless minutes the sky rained fire, the night lit up by explosions that could be seen for miles around. The jets, their mission complete and their presence barely registered by those on the ground, vanished into the night as quickly as they had arrived. They left behind utter devastation, a raging inferno illuminating the desert, flames licking the sky and casting long shadows over the sand. The fortress was now a ruin, a tomb of concrete and fire, its secrets buried beneath smoldering rubble. Silence returned, but it was the silence of the grave, heavy and absolute, broken only by the crackle of dying flames. The end of an empire had come, swift and merciless, leaving nothing but ruins and memories of power lost. Operation Phantom Veil was over, its objectives achieved with chilling precision. The world would never be the same. News of the strike spread across the globe, sending shockwaves through governments and criminal networks alike. The Sonora Syndicate's reign ended in a single, unforgettable night, a night that would be studied and remembered for years to come. The desert kept its secrets, but the world would soon learn the cost of that midnight symphony of destruction, a cost measured in fire, silence, and the end of an era. To truly understand what happened that night, you must first know the Sonora Syndicate, the shadowy force that changed the rules of the game. This was not just another cartel fighting for territory. The Sonora Syndicate was a narco-state in the making, a criminal empire with ambitions far beyond the drug trade. Born in the chaos of the early 2010s, they rose from the ashes of fractured organizations. Their founders were not just ruthless, they were educated, tech-savvy, and visionary, blending business acumen with street brutality. El Cerebro, a former chemical engineer, revolutionized fentanyl production, turning labs into high-tech factories and making the syndicate a pioneer in synthetic drugs. El Martillo, a hardened Special Forces veteran, built their private army from the ground up, training soldiers with military precision and discipline. Their focus was clear: synthetic opioids. Cheaper, more potent, and easier to produce than traditional drugs, these pills became their weapon of choice. Their business model was agile, encrypted, and nearly invisible, using technology to stay one step ahead of law enforcement and rivals alike. El Martillo's army was elite, equipped with military-grade weapons, night vision, and the latest surveillance tech, making them a force few dared to challenge. They infiltrated police and government, using violence not recklessly but strategically, eliminating threats and buying loyalty at every level. By 2024, the syndicate controlled northern Mexico, dominating drug routes and flooding the U.S. with fentanyl on an unprecedented scale. Over 70% of U.S. fentanyl was traced back to them, fueling an epidemic that left tens of thousands dead each year, and countless families shattered. Corruption shielded them at the highest levels, with politicians and officials turning a blind eye in exchange for fortunes. More than a cartel, they became a sovereign power, ruling from a fortress that served as their capital, protected by walls, guns, and fear. Their empire seemed unstoppable, their grip unbreakable, until that fateful night when everything changed. At the heart of their power stood La Fortaleza Inexpugnable, the impregnable fortress. Deep in the Sonoran desert, it was a marvel of brutalist engineering and military precision. Surrounded by miles of barren terrain, it was nearly impossible to approach undetected. Above ground-reinforced concrete buildings, guard towers, triple-layered fences, and elite patrols. Below, a vast underground complex, superlab, command center, living quarters, and storage. Self-sufficient, it could be sealed off for months. The fortress was a defiant symbol, known to both US and Mexican intelligence. Any raid would be a bloodbath. A US ground operation was unthinkable. La Fortaleza was the ultimate statement of impunity. It stood as a monument to the syndicate's power until the night it fell. The laws of nations did not apply here. 2025 brought a seismic shift in US policy. Overdose deaths soared past 120,000, a national trauma. The Sonora Syndicate was redefined as a hostile foreign entity waging chemical war. Congress passed the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Hostile Actor Act. The president gained authority to designate cartels as enemy combatants. The rules of engagement changed. Military force was now on the table. Surveillance technology surged. Drones and cyber teams mapped every inch of La Fortaleza. Intelligence agencies worked around the clock, breaking syndicate codes. Secret talks with Mexico led to a tacit agreement. The US could strike, if it was swift and deniable. The law, intelligence, and political groundwork were set. The stage was ready. Only the order remained. The world was about to change. Operation Phantom Veil was a masterclass in modern warfare. It began in simulators at Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. Every detail rehearsed. 12 F-35s, chosen for stealth, flew a circuitous, terrain-hugging route from Arizona. They split into 3 flights: Hammer with bunker busters, Scythe with Hellfires, Ghost with electronic jammers. Hammer struck first, obliterating the underground lab and command center. Scythe followed, targeting surface defenses with precision. Ghost jammed enemy sensors, ensuring total surprise. The attack lasted just over 10 minutes, systematic, not chaotic. Each bomb and missile struck its mark. By the end, La Fortaleza was erased. The jets vanished, leaving only fire and ruin. The Syndicate's stronghold was gone. The perfect strike had changed the war. In the aftermath, chaos swept the criminal underworld. Early reports were confused: gas explosion, earthquake, until satellite images revealed the truth. The Syndicate's leadership was dead, its empire decapitated. Lieutenants fought for scraps or fled, the network fractured overnight. Rival cartels moved in, igniting new turf wars. The Mexican government, armed with US intelligence, raided exposed syndicate assets. Hundreds were arrested, millions seized. In the US, fentanyl supply plummeted, street prices soared, purity dropped. The head of the snake was cut off. The drug war entered a new, chaotic phase. Operation Phantom Veil shattered the myth of the untouchable cartel. The North American drug trade was thrown into disarray. No one believed the problem was solved, but the impact was undeniable. The world had changed overnight. The fallout was as delicate as the strike itself. The US refused to comment. Mexico condemned the violation of sovereignty. Behind closed doors, relief and new cooperation emerged. The strike sent a global message. America would use force against non-state threats. Russia and China denounced it as dangerous precedent. Diplomatic tensions rose, but the message was clear. New rules now applied. In the US, debate raged: victory or dangerous overreach. Civil liberties groups warned of a slippery slope. Mexico, pressured to prove control, accelerated anti-cartel operations. Intelligence sharing increased, but mistrust lingered. The two nations were bound tighter, but the power imbalance was exposed. The future of their partnership was uncertain. The landscape had changed forever. In America, a strange calm followed the strike. Overdose cases dropped, first responders finally caught their breath. Families felt relief, justice, and lingering grief. The reduction in deaths was real, but the calm was fragile. Demand for opioids remained. Users turned to riskier sources. Treatment centers were overwhelmed. The supply was disrupted, but the root problem persisted. In Mexico, violence surged as rival cartels fought for control. Towns were caught in the crossfire, disappearances and homicides spiked. The airstrike brought a new, unpredictable war. Cartel leaders went deeper underground, abandoning fortresses for decentralized operations. The enemy adapted, becoming harder to find. The US had destroyed a fortress but not the Hydra. 1 year later, the legacy of Operation Phantom Veil is still unfolding, its consequences rippling across borders and through communities on both sides. The Sonora Syndicate was annihilated, fentanyl flow choked off, at least for now. The operation struck a devastating blow, crippling the cartel's infrastructure and sending shockwaves through the criminal underworld. It was a tactical victory, but the strategic question remains: was this the end of a war, or merely the beginning of a new, more dangerous chapter? The future is uncertain, and the stakes have never been higher. The precedent is set. Cartels are now treated as enemy combatants, blurring the line between law enforcement and military action. The underworld adapts, decentralizes, and blends with civilians, making it harder to distinguish friend from foe. Cartel operatives now hide in plain sight, shifting tactics to evade detection. Future strikes will be harder, costlier, and riskier for everyone involved. The enemy is learning, evolving, and becoming more elusive with each passing day. US-Mexico relations hang in the balance. Cooperation built on shaky ground, with trust eroding as both nations weigh their own interests and security. Mexico must choose: regain control over its territory and institutions, or risk more US intervention and the loss of sovereignty. The pressure is mounting from all sides. The strike addressed supply, not demand. As long as the appetite for drugs persists, traffickers will find new ways to exploit the system. The real battle is in American communities, treatment centers, and homes, where addiction takes root and families struggle to heal. Until the root causes are addressed, poverty, addiction, and corruption, another cartel will rise to fill the void, perpetuating the cycle of violence. Operation Phantom Veil was a dramatic chapter, not the end. Its impact will be felt for years, shaping the future of the border and the fight against organized crime. The story continues, its outcome still unwritten, with new challenges and choices ahead for both nations. The war is far from over. The next move belongs to those willing to shape the future, for better or worse.